Really going? Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We are really live this evening, live with the brokers. I have my son Kaiser Johnson here with me. Welcome, Kaiser, to the live stream.
Oh, hey, I'm not seeing it live stream. Oh, here
Really
we go.
going?
There we go. Now we got it. All right.
Yeah, we're here and
Sorry
we're
about that.
here for you guys. So everyone who's in the chat, if you're seeing us and you're not in the live chat, you're going to want to be in the live chat because that's where the cool kids are, and that's where you can ask your questions live from us tonight because we are here tonight for you. So everyone who's in the live chat, if you aren't, make sure you're on YouTube on Liberty and Finance. Make sure you have subscribed to Liberty and Finance, or else you won't be able to get in the live chat. Then go ahead and right underneath the video that's in YouTube, you should be able to find a live chat, enter it there, and we will answer your questions there live tonight. Both I, Dunnigan Kaiser, and my son, Kaiser Johnson, are licensed and bonded bullion dealers with Miles Franklin Precious Metals. We're here to answer your questions, no matter what they might be. Now, if we don't know, we're going to say we don't know. But if you have questions about the right kinds of precious metals. Why should you even buy precious metals in the first place? Who needs them? Gold versus silver, US versus foreign, bullion, legal tenders, coins versus bars, platinum, what about that? How about storage, IRAs, shipping, privacy, security? Is there any reporting? Are there any taxes? Any questions you have, do we buy back and as well as sell and swap? You got questions, we got answers. If we don't, we'll let you know, but we probably do. So we have,
That go ahead.
go ahead. I see we have quite a few people on the chat already. John, Bill M. from Florida, Timothy Gorman, Pat Laughter, and others. Bill M. from Florida says, should recently changing state laws reinforcing gold and silver as money impact storage location decisions? Bill, thank you for asking. That's an excellent question, and it very well may. There's some ambiguity about that at the moment that's being nailed down. We're getting clarification from our management and from those who are in the the center of the sound money movement that are helping to help craft legislation in all the different states that are moving this forward, and it's being done independently, but with a loose network of cooperation. There are several organizations that are bringing these changes forward. Sound Money Defense League is one, and there's soundmoney.org is another one. They're helping both Florida, Texas, Idaho, and others to come up with legislation. And Texas, some have state depositories established, some plan to. Some are clarifying because of certain legal tender stipulations that it may actually make storage more difficult or more restricted in that state. We're going to have more information, we are told, within a week or two from now, and we're going to be talking about it on our channel. So we don't have all the answers tonight, but in answer to your question, yes, new state laws may indeed affect your decisions on where you want to store your metals. Kaiser, do you have any augmentation for that right now?
Not specifically on that one. There was one thing that you mentioned right at the top, and then I see we've got more questions to get to. But one thing that you mentioned right at the top was, people going, do you buy back and that kind of thing, and that's something that I've been really interested. I've been hearing a lot recently, and a surprise to hear is people asking, uh, you know, does Miles Franklin purchase precious metals? Do you trade precious metals? And I thought, and perhaps it's just indicative of how much on a like buying side of things that we've done for the last few years here is that yes, I mean we buy, sell, and trade precious metals, and that's been Miles Franklin's business from the beginning, and that we're always happy to. To sell your precious metals, always happy to purchase precious metals from you, and always happy to swap one kind for another kind or one product for another product.
Mhm.
And that's something especially that is has been helpful recently for people is to do swaps, because when you see high spot price but really low premiums like we've been seeing right now, both in gold, silver, platinum, um, things like that, where in particular gold is the one where there's a high spot price but a very low premium relative to the spot price, that it can be a really good opportunity to do swaps. And so that's that way it's been something that every time I hear someone ask me that, I'm surprised because I go, oh, of course we do that. That's the whole business of a precious metals broker is doing that. But it's worth mentioning and it's worth repeating and going, look, whatever kind of a trade or a transaction you want to do in precious metals, we're there for you to help you in that.
Yeah, Andy has explained a couple of things about this. One is that from the very beginning, Miles Franklin has been a full service precious metals broker, dealer. So that means just like with a full service car dealership or that sort of thing, they sell, they buy, you can trade. This we do this every week, all the time. We'd be happy to help you, and it doesn't matter if you own these things personally, if they're in an IRA. Yes, we can help you with that. And as Kaiser mentioned, right, this last year or so has been a very fertile time for doing that. There's a number of reasons. Some reasons are times are getting tighter. I mean, people are feeling cash pinched, frankly, with the destruction of the purchasing power of the dollar. If people are relying on income from a job or savings that they've had, it's getting, for some people, tougher and tougher to come up with new cash to purchase precious metals with, but they may have significant appreciation, for example, in gold, and think, gee, maybe this would be a time now to switch over to silver since, as Rick Rule has often told us, gold moves first and silver moves faster and farther once it gets going. So this might be a time to consider a gold for silver swap with the anticipation that once silver makes multiples of the move that gold is probably still bound to make, that you could potentially have a plan of switching back from the silver into gold and end up with more gold than you started with. And that's the second point that Andy sometimes brings up. He says the biggest gains he has seen made either by himself or others in his career as the owner of a gold company is watching for anomalies, unusual relationships, something expensive, something cheap. Even Bob Moriarty, I remember him saying, folks, keep it simple. Buy what's cheap and sell what's expensive. So that idea holds true. And when we've seen extremely high premiums, as we did during the COVID crunch on American Silver Eagles or junk silver, we were encouraging the public to sell those or swap those in for lower premium products to Miles Franklin. Or recently, we had a special buy at Miles Franklin of a bunch of semi-numismatic pre-33 gold coins. We said, guys, this is a generational opportunity to swap in ordinary gold bullion coins or bars for pre-33 graded coins at like a one for one. So we absolutely, whether you need to liquidate to get some cash to pay taxes or go for a business opportunity or whatever it might be, absolutely happy to buy back metals from you. And that's one thing that a full service brokerage will always do is provide that two-way market for you. So yes, the answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah. We've got some questions here. One on the recent moves in the platinum market, which I think are certainly worth noting. I mean, what, less than a month ago it was below $1,000, and now it's well over 1,300. Platinum's obviously been there before, and it ordinarily over the past 30 40 years here, platinum has traded anywhere from 50% higher than gold to almost three times the cost of gold. And so the way that it's been kind of depressed over the course of the last few years here is one of those anomalous moments where this thing that ordinarily trades significantly higher than gold has been below gold in its relationship. And so it's been and still looks like a pretty darn decent time to purchase platinum because platinum has not regularized in its relationship with gold. So
Yeah, and as Rick Rule reminds us when we interview him, platinum is a strange duck because it has not usually been considered a monetary metal to the extent that gold or silver has, and yet, as a precious, it is clearly scarce, and as a precious metal, um, it is extremely limited in supply in numerous ways. One of the ways is there's really only two main jurisdictions that it comes out of. That's South Africa and Russia, both of which have geopolitical strains right now going on that affect production. Andy points out that the U.S. Mint hasn't produced any 2025 Platinum Eagles this year and doesn't think they will. Doesn't know if he'll get any next year. So it's scarce, and the availability of it is scarce for retail investors as well. So, and as Kaiser points out, it's still less than half far less than half the price of gold when it normally trades at a premium to gold. So it's one of those anomalies that has persisted. Um, Andy Schechtman often says that it would be his third choice after gold and silver, just because it doesn't have as deep a monetary reputation in history. Whereas with gold, that's absolutely the premier monetary metal. With silver, you get a at least a twofer. You get it's a monetary metal and it's also a industrial, irreplaceable industrial usage. So something to think about. And frankly, the platinum miners were also at a very down in the mud until recently. Now they've responded as well, but most of those are not domestic. So those are foreign companies. So you might want to think about jurisdictional risk before taking the plunge there. William says, thank you. I saw a question way up at the beginning. Someone says, when is Miles Franklin expanding into Stephen Edmonds? When is Miles Franklin setting up in Australia? Miles Franklin currently does not have any plans to expand into Australia. We have a good friend, John Adams, economist and founder of Adams Economics and Adams Bullion. If you want to give him a shout out, he'll take care of you in Australia. What else is there? Who else have we got? What's up with Basel III, says
Yeah.
Luis Garcia. That's a question a lot of us have been asking for a couple of years now. And almost always the answer is we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. It certainly changes the multiplier by which banks are able to count gold as an asset on their balance sheet and how they have to balance that out in their credits versus debits on their balance sheet and on their assets to liabilities. It's not yet clear what the implications are going to be on, for example, if it's going to impact sharply the spot price of gold or the physical availability. So we're watching, as is everyone, to see what direction that takes. Victoria ZQ, what about with the Glint Mastercard along with the app and the person that's establishing the gold and silver currencies in each state and aligning it with this type of transactions? Yes, so Miles Franklin is a North American representative, and we are for Glint. And we have a link if you want to support our channel and find out more about getting a Glint MasterCard. In fact, they'll give you they won't charge you the $10 fee for getting a physical card. Normally, you don't need the physical card if you just use the app. But if you want the physical card, it would normally cost you $10. They'll waive that fee if you use our link to get there. And if you want one, just email us at libertyandfinance@protonmail.com and just put Glint in the title of the email. Libertyandfinance@protonmail.com. Just put Glint in the title. We'll send you a affiliate link that you can use to pick that up. So yes, if you open up a Glint account, you need to download the app onto a smart device like smartphone, and then you fund it through a bank deposit, and then you can purchase gold right there in the app. They charge a 0.5% fee for the physical gold that you own. You own a fractional part of a physical gold bar that's in the Brinks vault in Switzerland, and you can then use it like a debit card for anywhere that you would. And the nice thing is that your savings, rather than being in the bank and withering away with no interest practically, usually in most checking accounts, and the dollars going down in value, your savings that you put into your gold holdings in your Glint card get to hold their value or even grow as gold's value grows. So you might end up being able to make little purchases each month and never run out of money because the value of your gold keeps going up in your Glint account.
There's a couple of full of hope points out that there as you do trade an amount of privacy for the convenience of the Glint. It's true that there's more what are called KYC protocols, know your customer, know your consumer, where that you have to follow for those. And so certainly one of the things that we pride ourselves on at Miles Franklin and Liberty and Finance is offering uh, client privacy and security in ways that a lot of like online options just don't give you. It's true that anytime that you trade to get more convenience, the thing that you're generally going to trade is some amount of privacy. So for people who want not just the convenience, but also, the ability to, again, as Dunnigan was saying, have an asset that you don't have to have around your house, but it has the much greater tendency to appreciate in value rather than when the dollar is crashing and that kind of thing. Those are great selling points to have access to Glint. But it may not be for everybody, but it's worth knowing those things and what your top priorities are in regards to why you have precious metals in the first place.
Yeah, it's interesting because dealing with a nationwide dealer like Miles Franklin means for many clients we are at a distance from each other, and that's not ideal. Luckily, we can talk to each other on the phone. We can do this live chat like this, but it's not quite the same as being face to face. So it's a different experience than say walking into your local coin shop, plunking down some cash on the counter, and walking home with a gold eagle completely anonymously or vice versa. That's something that Miles Franklin can't do is just completely anonymous transactions like that or with cash, that sort of thing. So there is a place for a local coin shop. I did hear a very heart-wrenching story from one of my clients who said he was going to go into his local coin shop. He has his coins in his backpack, parked his car in front of the coin shop, wanted to grab a coffee at the coffee shop next door to the coin shop, went into the coffee shop, got his coffee, came out, his car had been broken into, his backpack was gone, and there's no recourse. So uh, just remember that there are trade-offs sometimes when you're dealing with physical things. The distance can make it somewhat inconvenient. We have workarounds that are pretty useful to get past much of the difficulties. But we are dealing with treasure here, so we need to do it mindfully, and we do everything we can. Miles Franklin does everything we can within the law to protect your privacy and to provide ways of insurance and blank labeling and all kinds of things. So if anybody wants us to get into some of those ways that Miles Franklin helps to protect your privacy, we're happy to do it. Just let us know in the live chat. Let's see what else we got going in the live chat.
Robert Hutchinson asks about, he said, any idea what precious metals company stole 600 million from customers in a storage scheme? I think what you're referring
Yeah.
to is the first state depository thing
Mhm.
that it actually happened a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, but the sentencing was just handed down very recently. And so, yeah, it was a depository that was uh, not following the industry standards and uh, they were basically skimming off clients' funds to use to buy timeshares in Hawaii and stuff like that. And Dunnigan, do you have maybe more?
Well, yeah, so this is you get to know who you're dealing with, not only with your dealer. For example, it hurts my heart again when I hear people say, "Oh, I can get lower prices for coins on eBay." And I go, "Ah," because you don't know who you're dealing with on eBay. Now, maybe it's better than nothing. You might see that are a highly rated seller and they have a big history and everything, and that's maybe okay, but honestly, if you're dealing with a major dealer, and Miles Franklin is by no means the only major reputable dealer. The Better Business Bureau has us accredited and A plus rated. We've been around for 35 years, zero customer complaints. Uh, I, I was corroborated when I appeared in person with Andy at the Rick Rule Symposium back in 2021 and 2022 and so on, and I saw elderly people come up to Andy and say, I've worked with you and your father for 30 years and you always take care. I realized, wow, I landed in the right place because when you see long-term relationships, I know Stephen Covey in the book, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People says, look for people's ability to maintain long-term relationships. And that'll give you a good clue of the apple didn't fall far from the tree, that sort of thing. So you're in good hands with Miles Franklin. But just say that there are places that you might get a better deal, but this is another thing. Not only know your dealer, okay, that's the first one I kind of got off on a tangent there, but secondly, you got to know your depository. If you are going to store all your stuff yourself, that's fine. Most of our clients do. About 95% of our clients have they store the metals that they purchase from us privately. I have no idea where they put them. I don't know if they send them to their children's houses or hide them in their own or whatever. It's none of my business. I don't ask. But let me just say that a significant portion of our clients, after they've either decided that their domicile where they live is maybe not the safest place they want all their treasure, they're in a whole nest egg, they want to have at least some of it that's not there in case, heaven forbid, there were a fire or a flood or a break-in or something, even when they're not home, that they don't want to be in charge of guarding all their treasure. But so they seek out a professional vault storage option as part of maybe a hybrid solution of having some of their treasure guarded by someone else than themselves. And it's very important to check out. the pedigree of the place that you're choosing. There are definite differences. Um, there's, for example, a vault in Delaware that when you're dealing with certain IRA custodians, you don't even have the option of a segregated silver IRA account. Your IRA silver account in that with that particular custodian at that particular vault will be commingled and pooled, and you will have partial ownership of big bars, or you will get back some other so-called equivalent metals to the ones you put in there. But if it reminds me when I had a bunch of protein canisters all filled up for preparing for Y2K, and I took my brand spanking new ones into the fill-up place to swap them, and the guy said, "Oh, you don't want to swap these. Look, you got these perfect containers with brand new valves and brand new gauges on them, and I'm going to give you one of these. We spray painted them so they don't look so bad, but they're old. Look at them." And so anyway, just be aware if you're not storing your metals in a segregated, allocated, and audited account, you may not get back the same ones that you legally own. These are just some of the things you can check out about different depositories because they're not all cut from the same cloth. They really are not. And unfortunately, there was one that had a crooked owner, and yeah, people. There were a whole bunch of people that were hurt with that depository. So we often work with the Dakota Depository in Fargo, North Dakota, and Miles Franklin also has a relationship with Brinks of North America that has several different locations, and both of those have long reputations and satisfied clients. So happy to help you with establishing storage at either of those or anywhere else. We can ship your metals anywhere you want us to.
Anywhere, well, right now in the United States. The,
In the
yeah,
United
yes,
States,
yeah.
that's right. There are other companies that specialize in international diversification of storage. Miles Franklin is not one of those, but there are some if that's really your interest.
Mhm.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill P4 says, should have just been buying silver all along. Yeah, it's a tough thing. Uh, if you're looking at it from an expectation that silver is likely to outperform gold going forward and already has outperformed gold in the last, say, 2 or 3 months here, you could say, gee, then we should have been buying silver all along. Some people don't have enough room to store silver or have other considerations. Gold has a reputation as the premier asset class for preserving and protecting wealth, and it's the one that's being gobbled up by central banks all over the world for the past 4 to 5 years. So um, it's neither one of those wrong. It's not that one's a right answer, one's a wrong answer. They just have different emphases. Gold is less volatile than silver. Some people sleep better at night knowing that it's less likely with gold that you're going to wake up one week and find it up 25% and then down 10% the next week. Whereas silver, that's just an ordinary week with silver sometimes. So, any further questions here?
There's several here. I see Stephen Edmonds asks, what spreads should bullion dealers charge for buy and sell of gold and silver? And there may not be as clear an answer of what they should charge, what sort of spreads they should have, as to what they do have. And some have really broad spreads, anywhere from, for instance, we've been doing a lot more buybacks recently and swaps recently, and sometimes a place that might have they might be advertising a slightly lower price on a purchase than Miles Franklin is currently advertising. But they're advertising it for people to do swaps, but what they're buying back at is ridiculously low. I think of things where, again, because right now it's very much a buyer's market with low premiums. But what that means is too, when you're selling, you get a lower premium too. So, for instance, on something like 100-ounce bars, on a swap, I think right now we're giving 60 cents under spot on a swap. Several other major dealers are swapping at,
$2
$2.50
below, yeah, or more.
below spot. And so it's worth checking out. Generally, I don't think I've ever had, maybe once ever had anybody be able to find a tighter spread than Miles Franklin on a swap. And so I think it's worth asking, and it's also worth knowing that that changes all the time.
Mhm.
The sometimes, it holds roughly a similar percentage difference to where it did before, but you look at something like 2 years ago when bank closures were going on and stuff, and we were selling Eagles at silver Eagles at $15.50 over spot. We were buying them at $12.50 over spot. So if you wanted to sell us Eagles, we were buying them at 12.50 over spot.
Mhm.
And we were selling junk silver at $12 over spot. We were buying it at $9 over spot. And this leads into another question that Anonymous had posted here of why is the premium on 90% constitutional silver dropped so low? Um, Constitutional is certainly one where it is very affected. Silver Eagles are highly affected by market conditions, but even more than that, uh, constitutional silver, it seems to be affected by market conditions, and even more so because of, as Andy always points out, we're not making any more of it. So when dealers in the country get large portions of constitutional silver, which frequently comes from when someone who's held lots of constitutional silver
Mhm.
passes away or sells a large portion of it for some reason, and or they pass away and their kids, sell it to a dealer. Suddenly, the market is awash in supply of it, um, and and so people will lower their premiums to because precious metals dealers are in the business of buying, selling, and trading precious metals, not holding precious metals. And although everybody who who works at a precious metals dealer certainly has their own private holdings, the company itself doesn't tend to want to sit on vast holdings.
Long-term inventory. No, yeah, they have to maintain an inventory to be able to have that product on hand to ship, but it's not in the business of holding on to the inventory.
Right.
Another thing, this is a fascinating story, just to augment this, how there can suddenly be a supply where we were having a hard time during the COVID years. We could hardly 50% of the time we were on a 6 to 8 week backlog of not being able to get junk silver in certain times,
Right.
and yet I have a client who has been a potential wholesaler of junk silver to Miles Franklin because he runs a company that makes optical scanning machines to do high frequency, high volume coin examinations. They'll bring dump trucks full, I mean, trucks full of coinage from the banks and run them through their high machines and strip out the uh, 90% silver because they can actually read the year visually, and they've got vaults and vaults full of the stuff, but they weren't willing to sell it for less than $30 spot. So for years he kept calling me saying, "Hey, can we?" Because when the spot would get close to 30, he'd say, "Hey, can you pay me more than $30 an ounce for this junk silver?" And when we could, and when we couldn't, we couldn't. Well, now that we're well over 30, there may be other people who are sitting on top of a hoard of 90% silver that are willing to release it because they got it at a much lower price way back when and are willing to part with it at the current spot prices. So it's an uneven supply situation. They certainly haven't made any of it in the past 60 years, but the availability of the opening up of the vault doors of hoards that can become available sometimes is helped by higher prices. That's what Rick Rule says. The solution to higher prices is higher prices. It solves itself in many cases because it will open up availability in some cases.
Yeah. We have a number of questions about copper. William's asking how come it's not considered precious metal, and people asking, when is copper a factor? So a couple of things in regards to that. The Copper is certainly a valuable metal. And in fact, it's one it's one of the main reasons that we still have a silver supply coming out of anywhere is because copper has been valuable to mine while silver spot has been suppressed or depressed, however you are inclined to think about it. And so and silver comes out as a byproduct in a lot of what are operating copper mines. And so it's not a precious metal because it's never had a high price, I guess, associated with it, and it is quite common. It's not difficult to obtain, uh, but it is certainly very valuable. We use it in everything, in all technology, and in plumbing, and in so many things. It's an industrial metal that is not a
Electrification, yeah, of the world, the grid and motors and cars and everything. Everything
yeah.
requires copper that runs on electricity. And but at $4 to $5 a pound, it's in a completely different realm from a value per ounce standpoint than something like silver or gold, so or platinum. So silver, gold, platinum, and palladium are considered the precious metals, and to some extent rhodium. It's just rarer. But copper is in a different class as an industrial metal primarily, and that may not stay that way forever because it's getting in short supply, and we've spoken with several mining companies. If you've been watching, you're noticing we're putting them out as matinees in the middle of the day sometimes now. These mining companies that we're speaking with, that Rick Rule has chosen to be at the Rule Symposium next week, and some of them are copper companies. So take a listen to some of those and see if any of those might be worthy of your closer inspection, because there's going to be a lot of action in the copper arena, and with copper price and copper mining and copper supply and demand, all that's very interesting. It just doesn't clear the bar as being uh, currently as precious as silver, gold, platinum, palladium, rhodium. So
Yeah. Uh,
this is good. CT Goldstacker says a few local coin shops in my
yes.
area are running, local coin dealers in my area are running low on cash because they've been buying and barely selling. Does Miles Franklin have enough liquidity to ride similar situations out? The way Andy explains it is Miles Franklin is always buying. We have deep relationships with over 200 major either coin shops, auction houses, wholesalers, distributors around the country. So we're always able to buy and sell. We're always able to make a two-way market for you to provide you that liquidity. And it doesn't mean, as Kaiser said earlier, it doesn't mean that when we buy a hoard of metals from someone that we just sit on them forever. We might immediately sell them back into the wholesale market or to a major distributor, etc. So we just have those connections so that we can provide that liquidity and that two-way market for you anytime. Yes.
There's a couple of people mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
Just Thomas Tube. Sorry, I'm late. A monster box fell on
Yeah.
my foot. Well, Thomas, if it was just the box, it shouldn't hurt too bad. But if it was full of
Full of
41
coins.
pounds of coins, hopefully it was just an Australian monster box. Yeah.
Yeah, 250 ounces.
Yeah.
There's John, hi John, how are you? Is mentioning the great value on, and we've talked a little bit about it on junk silver right now, but I think it is certainly worth mentioning again. I mean, right now we're advertising uh, junk silver at 99 cents over a spot right now, and that's again, like I mentioned 2 years ago, we were buying it back at $9 over spot,
Mhm.
and which was about a 50% premium at the time. And so it's one of those things where when people want it, it's all they want. And so like Donegan was mentioning earlier, when you look at possibly positioning yourself differently, to move from you know sell what's expensive and buy what's cheap. Right now, junk silver is really cheap, and it's one of those ones that when it's in demand, boy, is it ever, and it is not cheap at
Mhm.
all. And so that's the bulk of my silver purchases right now are in
Mhm.
junk silver because it's such a great value, and even and if you're buying it at volume, we can even
I
get
gotta
you
show you something.
uh, some other things, even more than or less than 99 cents over spot, depending on what volume you're purchasing at. So those are that one, and then still numismatic coins are
Yeah.
the MS62s they're not quite as low a premium relative to things as they were before, but you can still get an MS63 Liberty for at or below the cost of a 2025 Eagle. And that's still kind of an unheard of situation. We had this wild anomaly in February, and it's a slightly less wild anomaly now, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
seriously, if you've been considering, if you didn't get in and take part in the swap we had going in February, where we were taking one for one swaps of modern bullion gold coins or bars, one for one with pre 33 numismatic graded coins like MS62, MS63s. It's not too late to talk to us about that because it's still close to as good a deal as it was back then.
Yeah.
And it's still very unusual that that's true. So
Yeah.
it's
And
usually
if I
like,
hadn't swapped, we swapped every single ounce of gold that we had to numismatic coins.
and
And
I would have, but I wasn't at home and I
well, time
couldn't
to do it
even get
now.
them.
If I
Yeah.
hadn't done it all then, I would do it now.
And
Because
and this is
that's
I just wanted to
oh
brag
yeah.
about the Mercury dimes are a special to me. These are a very special example of junk silver because the moment anyone sees one of these, they know they're holding something special in their hands. Most people have never seen one of these, and they know there's something absolutely special about it. And then you can give them the explanation that the thing that's special about it is not just that it's part of American history, but that it's 90% silver, which the one any dimes in their pocket have no silver in there. And usually when we've showed those to people at, say, a farmer's market or something, um, it depends on the vendor. Some people they don't even understand why you'd be asking them. Others get extremely excited. You see the sparkle in their eyes. They're very interested. So yeah, junk silver is exceptionally affordable right now compared to where it was during the crunch of the lockdowns and the Ukraine invasion and the bank failures and all those things that were happening. And I don't know, when we just talked to Alex Newman recently or Jeffrey Tucker, two interviews this week, it sounds like buckle up as far as bumpy times ahead with reruns, with even turned up to 11 on some of these stresses that are going to be put on us and on our system. And it may be an excellent asset to acquire when nobody's looking, when nobody's interested, when the price and the premium are low. And then by the time the public goes, dang, why didn't we pay attention back when you could get it relatively on the cheap? So anyway, something to think about from a preparedness standpoint.
On that, there was a question on an exit strategy, and I'm trying to look back and find it.
Yeah,
Rudy
while you're
Smith
looking for
says,
that,
yeah.
I wanted to ask
Oh,
one commenter. Joshua Ellis said, "Ask the panel my question, please." Joshua, I don't see your original question. Can you just repeat it in the chat so that we can pick it up? Because we
mhm.
don't know what you're referring to. Um, exit strategy. Well, one thing bef that we have to think about, guys, when it comes to an exit strategy, remember the way Alistair McLeod explains it, former bank director. He says it's not prices going up, it's the dollar going down. So if you think about the dollar just going down, it's in a death spiral. It's been doing that since 1913. It's been doing it faster since 1964, and it's been doing faster since 1971. It's losing its value in purchasing power. Remember the saying, a buck ain't worth what it used to be. It isn't. So when you have a dying asset like that, it's almost doesn't make sense to think of, gee, how can I jump back into it?
Right.
Because there's probably never going to be a good time to jump back into a dying asset. The point is, if you have something that retains its value, one or two of these could have bought a gallon of gas 50 years ago. One or two of these can still buy a gallon of gas on a value basis, depending where you are in the country, because they're each worth about $2.60 right now. Um, the point is, when you have something that's holding its value, you don't want to swap it for something that's not holding its value, but you might want to consider, depending on the situation, if the market gets so distorted that so many people try to crowd into the phone booth that silver gets driven to a unsustainable high price relative to the fiat currency, you might want to consider some other asset that would hold its value to take advantage of that opportunity. As Rick Rule says, by having bullion liquidity, you can take advantage of anomalies rather than being taken advantage of. So maybe it'll be some productive farmland you'd like to purchase, or a business, or a house, or something. But something that's going to retain its value, not jumping necessarily back into a deleting, a dying currency is not the answer. Even though we're used to thinking about that, we're thinking, oh, we're gonna, buy some tech stock, and then when it doubles, flip back into the dollars. Oh, look how smart I am because now I started out with $1,000, now I got $2,000. But the buck ain't worth what it used to be. So think about that in terms of whenever you think of an exit strategy, think of another asset that's going to retain value and not have the same anemic sickness that the dollar has to swap back into.
Yeah, and
But if you
another
want cash, Miles Franklin will be able to provide it.
yeah, and another point on that is with the sound money movement and the fact that gold and silver have this 5,000 year history of being monetary metals is uh, I think for me at least to look at an exit strategy is kind of a a backward way of looking at it. I'm looking for a deeper entry strategy that more people will I trust that more people, as they see the collapse of fiat currencies, will understand the value of sound money, and that more people will enter into it or want to enter into it. And we've seen that already in the last, particularly since 2020.
Mhm.
Lots of more people, young people, people who have never thought about precious metals before, entering into precious metals and going, whether they're 16 years old and they go, I want to make my first precious metals purchase, or we have people who are 88 years old and they call us up and they say, I want to make my first precious metals purchase, and that I don't have an exit strategy. All of this is an entry strategy, and I want to encourage other people around me to enter it back into uh, sound money as well, which is something that we had for 5,000 years, and just most places kind of fell off the wagon in the last 100 years or so. So
Yeah, they departed from time-proven reality and have been chasing fiat, which is only worth the confidence in the government, which is rapidly failing. Okay, thank you, Joshua, for putting out a repeat on your question. What is the suggested ratio of gold to silver, like stocks to bonds, i.e., 60/40? Okay, the answer is it's not simple like that. The answer is every person has different goals and different needs. If you are looking for hedging, insurance, stability, low risk, protection, gold is the premier asset. It cannot be outdone. Gold cannot be outdone as the premier asset for wealth preservation. Okay? That's number one. Number two is silver is unusually inexpensive relative to gold right now. That's point number two. Point number three is how much storage space do you have and how safe of a place do you live in and how are you able to, because you can put $1.5 million in the size of a shoebox of gold, but it only can hold about $18,000 worth of silver. So if you have, $1 million IRA you want to pull out and put into metals, you can do it all in one little box, one medium-sized box of gold, but you would need you know, uh, 92 boxes like that of silver to hold that same value. So something to think about. There's no one answer. Some people are overemphasizing silver now with the intention that they would like to swap into gold in the future when silver surpasses gold on a percentage gain basis that they anticipate. So there isn't just one answer that somebody can give you, but if you want to think of it in terms of the different functions that they can perform, gold cannot be beat at preserving value, and silver is more volatile and is more useful for bartering, and it has at the moment outsized potential for gains relative to gold if you can tolerate the volatility. So you have to come up with that, and your personal ratio would be different from mine or from someone else's, uh, yours may be different 5 years from now than it is now because you may think, gosh, now silver's dear, and I want to get back into have more and more gold to preserve more of my wealth generationally.
I know we have to wrap up soon, but
We do.
two other things that I wanted to hit. One, Matt, let's just ask the question about, I have 80 ounces of platinum. Is the platinum to AU ratio going to go to 2 to 1 again? Is it going to be realistic in the next 5 years? And I would say, and Dunnigan, you can feel free to disagree with this if you want to, but I would say the idea that it will go 2 to 1 is very realistic. The idea that anyone could reliably tell you, that anyone on Earth could really realistically tell you whether that'll happen in the next 5 years, if they think they can, they're wrong. They can't tell you that. And
There are too many
the timelines are,
countercurrents.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but given that platinum comes from very limited sources, Russia and South Africa primarily, given that there's geopolitical strife in both of those areas, given that the industry, for example, the auto industry is rotating back out of palladium and back into platinum for like things like catalytic converters, which they had gone the other way when platinum was too expensive and palladium was relatively cheap. Now they're reversed so that they're engineering the palladium out and the platinum back in. There's lots of narratives, now lots of predictions we could make to say it looks like there's going to be more demand for platinum in the next 3 years, say, and lots of chances for the supply chain to get interrupted, and have all it takes is a big blow up further in politics and strife in South Africa, and a significant portion of the world's platinum supply is just stops. So yeah, there are lots of scenarios that could cause that to happen. Will it happen? When will it happen? Not sure.
Yeah. The
Oh, I haven't shared the specials. Let's real quick get those up because we gotta
oh
we
sure.
gotta wrap here quickly. So
Yeah.
let me just share and window. Come
While
on.
you're doing that, I'm just going to quickly address.
Yeah.
There were two more questions, kind of about the numismatics. And Thomas had asked, "Will you do this a swap with Krugerrand?" The so right now, call us up if you'd like to look at swapping from a bullion coin into numismatics, because it's not just a across the board one-to-one swap anymore. But most coins you can get a pretty close swap directly into there, and Krugerrand, even though, they're 22 karat gold, they still have 1 ounce of gold in there. And so it's not like they're a lesser coin or anything like that. In fact, when Eagles were priced so high relative to the spot price of gold a couple of years ago here, I was only buying Krugerrand because that was something that I was buying for recognizability and low premium. And even, if people have never don't know anything else about gold or silver, they've heard of gold Krugerrand. And so that was I like the Krugerrand, and but I think better to have these numismatics. And P Nola asks, "Hey, why is this? Can you explain more about why this is such a good deal?" So ordinarily, these numismatic coins are, they're from the mid 1800s to 1904 on the
Liberties are through 1907. St.
1907,
Gaudens
and
are
then
from
the St.
1908 to
Gaudens.
1933.
It's the same coin, but it is a different design by the artist St. Gaudens. And so they're historic coins that we had from, again, the middle of the 1800s to when we departed the gold standard. And so each of these coins are worth $20. They're 0.9675 ounces of gold. So they're a little bit lower gold content than 1 troy ounce. But they've got this historic pedigree is not quite the word I'm looking for. Parentage isn't quite the word I'm looking for, but I think you
Mhm.
get the main gist of it is they have this place in American history. Um, they're graded coins, which means that they're, even though they're 100 to 160 years old, 170 years old, they're still in as good or a better condition than you'd find modern coins being minted right now. And they they also have a collectible value as well to them, and we see that routinely they trade significantly higher premiums than gold eagles do, or certainly any other gold coin.
Yeah, they
Uh,
typically do. They have in the past. It's kind of like the tide that comes in and the tide goes out, and the tide comes in, the tide goes out. That's what we were talking about. Constitutional 90% silver coinage, dimes, quarters, half dollars. They've gone from as high as 11, $12 over spot down to now 99 cents over spot. So there's a high tide and a low tide in those premiums. Right now,
or, sorry, you're talking about constitutional
I was
silver.
making the analogy
Yeah, yeah,
there
right,
that
right.
as is true with constitutional 90% silver, for these semi-numismatic coins, there is a tide to their premiums above the price of gold. Right now, it's at a low ebb. So if
Yes.
you're gonna, if you have the option of buying something with almost no additional premium at this time, that through most of history has traded at a significant premium above simple gold. If all you're in it for is for the number of ounces of gold, that's all you care about, then even now they're probably not your cup of tea because they're close, but they're not, exactly equal. You're not going to get ounce for ounce, gold for gold going into those, but it'll be
Although I,
close.
I would point out that, I mean, if you can get If you're looking at a brilliant uncirculated eagle or a brilliant uncirculated grade on a numismatic, I mean, it's almost to the point where that you're talking melt on the numismatic and to the gold content of there. It's not quite there, but I mean, the fact that you can get an MS62 or MS63 Liberty below the cost of an American Eagle, it's
Yeah,
it's
you know,
it's pretty
given
close.
as long as you keep in mind that it has 3.25% less gold in it because of the
Right,
weight. So that's the gotcha. But just remember that, and for throughout, regardless of that,
right.
throughout most of history, they have traded at a premium to 1 ounce modern bullion coins. Right now, you can get them on par. So that's why it would be a good idea to consider if you're interested in swapping from something that's generally uh, common into something that typically uh, trades at a higher price than that thing. You can consider that. That's why people who did participate in the February swap, most of them did it for that reason. So there's the history part. There's that they're usually more expensive, and right now they're not. And then the third thing is back in the 1933 executive order from FDR calling in all the gold coins, there was an exception for collectors. So there are some dealers who beat the drum very hard on that and say they're guaranteed to be non-confiscatable by the government. That's another one of those things I would blow the whistle on and say, you don't know that the government's not going to change the rules as they have on many other things, but it's true that as collectible coins with a premium typically above the gold value in them, that they have been considered worthy of collecting, and therefore you could hope that if the government ever did try to do another shenanigan like physical nationalization of coinage as they did in 1933, that they might have that same loophole saying collectors don't have to turn in their collections. So that's what some people have also thought, well, gosh, they got history, they're cool because of that. They are usually more expensive, and now they're not. And thirdly, maybe they might be less confiscatable. So anyway, they have it's a three for, and if it doesn't cost you anything or much, almost anything to do it, why not? All right,
Yeah,
quickly the specials. And Kaiser, if you have to go, feel free. I can whip through these.
I
So
can be on the specials with you.
okay, we have. You want to read these off since you usually do? People are used to
Sure.
hearing you.
We've got 1 ounce silver Pamp Browns, only $2.59 over spot while supplies last. Pamp, as most people may know, is a major mint out of Switzerland, very famous for the high quality and artistry of their the rounds and the bars that they make. And this is just a killer price on rounds. So if you're just
Remember
looking
what
for,
rounds are, guys. It means they're not coins. They're not made by a government. They don't have legal tender status. They do not have face value marking. They're made by a private mint. But oh, by the way, that's probably the most highly regarded private mint in the world, or one of them. So,
yeah.
all right. Next.
1/10 ounce gold maples are only $45 over melt. Obviously, maples are one of the most recognized coins in North America. And the Royal Canadian Mint really recognized for the purity of what they do and the a lot of security things that they put in place to prevent counterfeiting and so forth with their coins. And 10th ounce gold maples at $45 is a pretty decent deal if you're looking for fractional gold.
Here's the key word, over melt. Remember what that means, folks. It means what's the actual value of the gold in one coin. So these are 1/10 of an ounce. So to calculate, you can do this in your head. Look at the current spot price of gold, divide it by 10. That's because they're 1/10 of an ounce of gold per coin. That's the weight and the value of the gold in each coin. Add $45 over that per coin. That's your retail price. Okay, next one.
The 1 ounce platinum platypus, only $119 over spot. So the platinum coin, the Australian Mint puts out all these different, just like the Canadian mint puts out Call of the Wild ones that are essentially maples with a different design. These are essentially the kangaroos with a different design, and they're again high purity and really recognized for the artistry that they put in on them. I might also mention we have platinum eagles at a really good price too. Like Dunnigan said, there are no 2025 eagles yet minted for platinum, but we do have backdated platinum eagles at prices that can beat that anybody at a pretty decent margin too. But platinum platypus is certainly a really low premium way to get into platinum, even as the spot price is raging.
Yeah, if you want to own physical platinum, this is a good way to do it. And
Yeah.
finally, we've been talking about this most of the hour tonight, 90% constitutional silver. This is dimes and quarters. We can't promise, but we can request if you want all dimes or all quarters or a mixture of the both. It is driven by what's available, but we'll do our best to meet your request if we can, based on what we have. And I'm going to stop sharing this because a really good comment was just put in the chat by one of the people about the exceptions to the 1933 FDR executive order. There were also, as Thomas Toops, there were also exceptions for jewelry, dental gold, artwork, etc. Yeah, I think there was 4 exceptions in total. Collectible was one of them. Collectors didn't have to turn in all their coins if they were part of a collection, if they had significant collector's value above and beyond the gold price. Well, that's brings us to the top of the hour. Everyone, thank you very, very much for being here. As always, you guys are amazing. We've had about 1,200 views here, over 200 current viewers still. And you guys make sure you like, and if you haven't subscribed, well, you wouldn't be in the live chat if you hadn't subscribed, but if you're not in the live chat, just click subscribe right now and share this with others. You probably have neighbors, friends, coworkers, family members who are not hearing that they need to get out of keeping their nest egg in cash or keeping their nest egg in the bank for very good reasons. We'll be going over more of those soon on our podcast. So glad you guys are here tonight. Spread the word and send people our way. We love it when we hear that people who have already worked with us and already know us and love us send new referrals our way. We love to take care of your family members and friends. Let us help in those ways. And thank you everyone for being here. Any last words, Kaiser?
No, that I all those same things. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here, and I'm happy to help out anyone who you want to help enter into precious metals as well. So
Joshua, you're saying I'm not asking for a law, but more of a suggestion based on what you think. Yeah. So I tried to give you some principles to go on the gold to silver asset ratio you might want to consider. It depends on factors of what your goals are, what the relative prices are, how much storage space you have, how much volatility you can tolerate, whether you want from a preparedness standpoint to have barterable metals on hand, which would be more like 90% silver coinage rather than big 1 ounce gold coins or bars. So, good night, everyone. God bless you all. Please give your family a hug. And God bless each and every one of you and your family. And we'll see you again next week. Andy and I will be doing this live from Boca Raton, Florida at the Rule Symposium. If you haven't registered for the Rule Symposium, just email us at libertyandfinance.com and just put rule or symposium in the title of the email, libertyandfinance@protonmail.com. We'll send you the link so you can register and support our channel. You don't have to travel. You can give virtual attendance. You get live streaming and you get 1 year of access to all the recordings. And you get all the insights from Rick and gang about all the countries. So thank you, everyone. Good. God bless. Good night.